Hey, you guys, welcome to God's Authentic One. If you want to know more information about the channel, it is down in the description box. Other than that, let's get started on what I'm going to talk about today, which is how I got homeless twice in the past 2 years and what happened during that time. So, in order for that to happen, we got to kind of set it up. I was still married at the time to my second husband, and that was a very short marriage. Um, I had actually got married to him. Well, I met him May 4th of 2024. Got married to him in June 6th of 2024, and also divorced him March 29th, 2025. Yeah, it was a very short marriage because he was abusive. He had hit me twice in the mouth, and the first time he hit me in the mouth, he went in jail for about 38 days, came out, and a few days later hit me again in the same place and split my lip open to where I had to have 4 stitches put in my lip. So he had went to jail twice, and the second time he was in jail was, he had already went in the first time in September, and then he went in again in November, and this is now December. So I already found out that he was being extradited from the state I was in, and that I had an emergency VP on him to where he couldn't come towards me, which is an actual restraining order. But while this was going on, I was not around good people at the time, and the people I hung around and my family that I had in my house at the time, which was my kids, was driving me nuts. So I needed to get away. You know how I like to get away. So I met up with this guy, platonic dude, to where we were. I found out he needed a ride to Corpus Christi, Texas. So I was like, hey, I could take you if you change my tire and get me some gas down there. Because I was thinking, well, maybe if I was to go to another state, that I can get a job there and get some money and then help out, with the house and everything. Because, of course, everybody was dependent on me to do everything about the house, even though they were living in it. So, he was like, sure. So we took on this adventure to Texas, and we were in Oklahoma at the time. So this guy, I kind of knew what a kind of guy he was. It was just that, hey, I get down there, we go our separate ways, blah blah blah. Or I was thinking maybe I could live with them a couple weeks until I get this job, and then I get out of there, right? So this was my mind thinking this, all right. But when I got in the car with him and we started going towards, well, we hadn't even went out of Oklahoma yet, or even close to going out of Oklahoma City. He started talking really crazy towards me. So I was like, hey, you gonna do that? I might as well drop you off to where I left you, where I picked you up. So I turned around off the highway to go back towards where I picked him up from, and he actually made me stop the car. So I went and parked, right? And then when I parked, he went and hit my mouth right here with his hands. And when he did that, now this is a big dude, all right? And when he did that, he made the inside of my mouth bleed right here. Now, I had just already had the trigger thing with the whole lip getting busted and everything twice. And then to have this guy all of a sudden hit me there was crazy at well, and all of a sudden he's trying to have him control me, and, make me do something I did not want to do, which was, no, we decided to do this, so we're going to do this, even though I'm crazy. I said, okay. So when, in past experiences, when a person will want me to do something that I didn't want to do, my mind starts to working, and it gets to working to the point like, okay, we'll see how far it goes, this and that, and then we'll understand what happens once we get there. That's how I was feeling. Like, I was already into revenge mode. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew that at the beginning, that after he made my mouth bleed and hurt for the rest of the time that I drove to Corpus Christi with him, that I wasn't going to be with him for long. And I'm the one that had the car, and I'm the one that's driving. So even though he may be big and taller than me or buffer than me or whatever, and a guy, I still had the advantage in my mind. Because when somebody do something wrong to me that I don't like, yeah, you must believe it. I may be the quiet one, but I'll be the one that stick it to you. That's how I was feeling back then. Because I was like, I was already triggered by my husband who was already abusive at the time. So anyways, we're driving, he gets the tire change. We're driving to Corpus Christi, and he starts making friends with me. I guess how you have the little talks during the time that you're driving. So it was him and I by myself. Yeah, I was stupid enough to do it, but I needed to get away anyways for other reasons. So anyways, because God had already told me I needed to get out of Texas. I needed to get out of Oklahoma. And so the furthest thing I could think of was Texas. And, when he brought up, I need to go to Corpus Christi, I was like, okay, yeah, let's do that. Because God was already saying, yeah, you need to take this offer. But what I didn't know is how crazy he was. I didn't care at the time because, him and I had been hanging out with other people for the past few weeks before it led up to it. So I didn't think it was a bad thing to do at the time. But then when he went and started getting crazy with him and I in the car by ourselves, well, yeah, I kind of thought twice of that, but then found out I couldn't get out of it. So I had to see it through. So anyways, we're in Texas. And we get to San Antonio, and I stop at a gas station because my gas was getting low. And I'm so tired at this time because, I've been driving all day long. I'm the one that's driving. He ain't driving. We're not switching places, not doing anything like that. We get into San Antonio, and he says he didn't have no more gas money. And I'm like, okay. And he said, well, you need to panhandle. And I looked at him like, you must be crazy. I don't panhandle. You can get out and panhandle. Guys do it. It's like, no, you pretty. You prettier. You need to get out and panhandle. I said, like not. What I will do is call my family member and see if I could get some gas cash app to me, but I am not getting out in this cold air, which was in December, the week before Christmas, to try to find some money for you. No, I don't do that. I'm too above that. my standards don't allow me to sell my body in any type of way possible. And panhandling was one of those things where you selling yourself to get money. And no, I don't do that ever. I don't sell nothing of me. And he's like, well, it's the only thing we could do to get some gas money. And I was like, no, it's not. Like I told you, I'm going to call my family member and I'm going to get some cash out money and I'm going to get some gas in my car and we're going to get you to where you need to go. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. So I get my family member on the phone, let him know what's going on, and I got cashed out some money. So I thought that was crazy right there too. Okay. So I got the money for the gas, was able to get him to the place that he was going. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry about that. There was somebody had their music up in Spanish really loud in front of my window. So anyways, let's get back to this. So we get into Robstown to where he needed to go, and we got in front of his door, and it was crazy before we got there because he didn't know where he actually needed to go for some reason. So we're in there, and he's all of a sudden, he didn't want me to turn a certain way, turn another way, cops down the street. Why all of a sudden is he afraid of cops when I've been driving this whole time for so long, and all of a sudden he's think I'm driving crazy? That was a little weird, okay? Like all of a sudden, and if I wouldn't have stopped and let the cops go by, they would have pulled me over. So, seeing that I have a CDL for about 24 years at this point, and, I drive commercial vehicles, buses, trucks, anything I have to do with big vehicles that's stuck together, okay? All of a sudden, I can't drive once I get into this town that he's in. And then I started thinking, oh, he must be wanted for the police or something. Must be. But I just go ahead and go on by, and we finally get to his place, right? Where his so-called girlfriend is. And I get out and waited politely while he went in. And then he comes and opens the door and he's like, well, why aren't you coming in? I said, well, it seemed like you wanted to say hi to her, so I just waited outside until you did it. Now it's about 2, 3 in the morning. It's about 3, close to 3 something in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning. And by the time we made it there, and he's hollering at me because of the fact that I didn't come in when he was trying to hug her and everything and say hi. I don't want to be in the middle of that. Which I thought was weird, that he thought it was weird that I didn't come in. But anyways, I go in and I look around and I look at the place and I see that it was like a 2-room apartment, something like that. There was a bed with her on it, and then on the other side there was another room that had just chairs. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be here. So I turned around and went back out. And he was like, oh, why didn't you say nothing to my woman, and why did you go back outside? I said, and I stopped and I turned around to him and I said, you best to get your stuff out of my car. He said, what? I said, you best to get your stuff out of my car now. And so I went to my car and on his side where he had his stuff, and I opened the door and started pulling his stuff out of the car. He was like, oh my You don't take any of my stuff out of the car. I said, well, you best get your stuff out of my car now. And he was like, I don't have to do anything until it's my chance, until I feel like I'm gonna do it. I said, okay. So I went and walked around my car, got in my car, cut the keys back on, turned the car back on, and hollered at him, you best to get your stuff out of my car right now. And by this time, he's on the side of the car trying, all of a sudden going really slow, and then he started pulling this stuff out. He's like, what you gonna do with the car on? I put the car in drive and went, broom, and broom back. Oh my God, you went over my feet. I can't believe you just went over my feet. You best to get your stuff out of my car now. He's like, I don't have to. Room. You did it again. I can't believe you did that. I told you, get your stuff out of my car. So by now, he's finally picking up pace, getting his stuff out of the car. I wait till he gets all of his stuff out of the car. And before I could even have him close the door, so he has both doors open on the passenger side of my car. It's 3 a.m. He's hollering at me. I can't believe you did this. And I said, I'm going to do it again if you don't get it. And he starts going faster. So he's getting his stuff out of the car. So as soon as he gets the stuff out of the car, one of the doors slammed, the one in the back. And the front door of the passenger side is still open. He's still there. I roll off. And I roll off fast. And I go finding a place to where I can find a place to sleep. Now, this gas that I had in the car is no longer because I had to drive from San Antonio to Robstown, which was right next to Corpus Christi. So we weren't in Corpus Christi directly. We were like in a town right outside of Corpus Christi. But I was so tired and I knew I didn't have any more money. So I rolled around to where I found a safe place where I was hidden, and I hid there for the night. I woke up the next morning and aching because I just slept in my car, and rode to Corpus Christi. I also rode to Corpus Christi to the beach, to where I had already been to this beach a couple times during the time I was married to my first husband. And so it was the Sunday before Christmas in 2024. And I went to the side to where I camped at a long time ago, years earlier, with my family a long time ago. And I slept there a couple nights until it got to the point to where I needed to find a shelter, which was on Christmas. On Christmas Eve, I had found a shelter, but they weren't going to have any room available till the next morning. So actually on Christmas itself, I stayed. There was a Christmas program that night in that shelter. Anyways, I was able to get gifts and clothes and stuff that I needed at the time and stuff to clean with, which I was very grateful for that shelter at the time. And then I didn't even go back to the beach because it was too far away and the gas wouldn't have made it in my car, so I actually slept in the neighborhood. And when I got up, it was Christmas morning, and it was one of my worst times in my life, to where I didn't know where I was going to go or where I was going to be or do anything at that moment. There was a hospital that I went to see if there was help, but they sent me back to the same shelter, which I did go back to that shelter Christmas morning, and I was able, they did have any they did have placements then, and I was able to get in that morning on Christmas. Thank God. And it was a place to where I was able to get some things together. They wouldn't allow my car in there because I didn't have insurance at the time. So I had to park my car around the corner to where a really bad looking apartment complex was, but I made friends with the people, and so I was able to park there okay and still be able to drive when I needed to. So I used my brain and my resources to the best of my knowledge back then, to where I was able to get in the shelter. I was able to have food 3 times a day. I did get a job to where I was working for a while. And after I got this job, I had like an interview with Greyhound, which was in Dallas at the time. Here I am in Corpus Christi, and I got to get to Dallas. Got in touch with one of the guys who was in a shelter, who was also, he was a worker that things happened to him, but he needed to get to Fort Worth. So he gave me money to help me get to Fort Worth, and that's how I got to Fort Worth and I got out. So I was in this shelter from like Christmas on December to around late January. Shout out to the shelter. Thank you guys so much for having me there. It was a blessing for you to have me there. And the fact that I had my car to go to work, so I was able to work and be okay and all that. Yes, you guys, I'm doing fine. If you're looking at this video, shout out to you guys. Thank you very much for having me there. Anyways, so that's what happened there. See, at my house, it was way in Oklahoma. So, I mean, I'm not homeless in Oklahoma because I have a house here, but I go out of state, and normally when I go out of state, I have it's more on a work thing. So I worked in Colorado. I worked in places like Colorado, to where they give you housing. They're really good about giving people housing and being able to work and live at the same time. They're not like Colorado and Montana and places like that. Both, you get a chance to work and have housing, and it's a really good opportunity if you need a place to stay. That employee housing thing, the employee housing with the contract that you do. And I drove a lot, so I drove for people a lot. Like I said, I drove buses and things like that. So, but when I went to Texas, I didn't have that opportunity. I wasn't even thinking. I did end up getting into a shelter to where I was able to use that address and work, but I was in a shelter. It wasn't like I was, it was employee housing. It was homeless shelter. So, but I did do well. I was able to get food and stuff, things like for that sort. And I was able to get out of that. And that was the first homeless experience I ever had, because of the fact that even when I was married with my kids and everything, I never went homeless, period. So this was being homeless by myself. It was a deal, but I got through it and I survived. You see, I survived the lunatic too. So now the second time I got homeless was months later. Okay, so remember I told you about my second husband being in jail at the time. And it was the jail in Oklahoma, of course. And he was extradited from Oklahoma to Baltimore. And when that happened, in February of 2025, he got released. All his charges was dropped. Something that I had predicted to him a month the month we met, I predicted that it was going to happen, and then it actually happened back in February of 2025, and we met in May of 2024, where he had told me that, oh no, I'm going to go to jail for a long time and blah. I said, no, baby, all these charges are going to be dropped. He didn't believe me, but sure enough, being extradited and everything back to Baltimore, he got released from charges. Gone. And he gets released, right? Okay. So he calls me up in May of 2025. Okay. So you got to understand, him and I got divorced in March 29th, 2025. We were divorced. So, and then he calls me up. Oh, I've been in these classes. They released me back in February. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I need you in my life. I really do. I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh. I would never hit you again. And I fell for it once again. After him asking me over again that he's going to send me a Greyhound ticket, we're going to make it work, this is going to happen, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. He's like, I got this whole setup thing going on down here. Yeah. Yeah, you had the whole setup. I get down. I said, now, if I was to accept this Greyhound ticket, and the reason why I want to accept it, because, I go back home, things are happening in my house still, and I want to get away again. So when a guy puts out a Greyhound ticket, hey, yeah, here I go. Even if it is my ex-husband. Oh gosh. So I mean, he was putting it on hard. He was like, "Oh, I love you so much. I am so sorry I did this to you, blah blah blah." And I was like, once again, here I go on the road trip. Took 3 days to get there. And I told him, you get me the money for this Greyhound ticket. I pay for this Greyhound ticket. I don't owe you nothing. This is something you want to do for me. I don't owe you anything. He said, okay. So here I go again, once again from Oklahoma City to, this time, Baltimore, Maryland. A little outside there. We went to Easton, Maryland first. And he was in Greenfield or somewhere like that at a, a rehab program. So I get down there thinking I could get in the shelter. I looked up these shelters, thinking I will do better this time than I did when I was in Corpus Christi. And, so I get in these shelters, get the money, get out, get my own place, that type of deal. That's what I was going to do. Get down there. Oh, no, we're not accepting anybody. Okay. So I find a way to get in a hotel room. And I'm in this hotel room. So this guy comes out of been perfect in rehab the whole time. Got a job, cutting grass, and that's how he was able to get me the Greyhound ticket. So what this idiot does is he goes and he finds a way to see me, which was great. We've been wanting to meet up anyways, right? Finds a way to see me. And then goes back to his rehab that night, which was great. Which was a Saturday. On that Sunday, why did he come back to me? Knowing that he didn't work that day or anything. I mean, he didn't work on that Saturday, but it's Saturday. You could get somewhere. But you want to come back to me on a Sunday when you're supposed to be back at the rehab at a certain time? So he couldn't get a ride back the next day on a Sunday. He gets kicked out of rehab. it makes him hard to go to work. So all of a sudden, he's without a job. I'm without a job already. I'm just getting there trying to find work. And we're in, I'm in a place I've never been before, Eastern Maryland. We're there I was able to get in touch with the church to where they gave me a week? A couple of weeks? No, they gave me a week of a hotel room, and I was able to stay there for a week with him because all of a sudden he doesn't have a job. So now we're both homeless. And he's like, oh, we need to go to Baltimore, blah, 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 blah. It's going to be much better down there, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm like, whatever. So we go to Baltimore, all right? We get to Baltimore, and we're homeless as everything in this big city, okay? Huge city, Baltimore, Maryland. He's able to get into a shelter. I'm not able to get into a shelter. So I'm living under a bridge, stuff like that for a few days. To the point to where I finally was able to get in this women's shelter. And when I get in this shelter, it's the kind of shelter to where you had to get up at a certain time and be out. And then you had to be back in way early so you can be able to, I guess, eat with the shelter. And then you had services, church services in the shelter. So you had to be back by 4. You leave about 7 or 8 in the morning. Couldn't leave before that. You had to leave by 7. You had to leave about 8 something after breakfast was served, okay? And then you had to be back by 4. Now, how in the world are you going to have a job and do that? You couldn't do that. It wasn't possible. It wasn't in, because if you was to have a night job, which is the only job I would have been able to get, which I did end up getting, it was like you go to this place. You were able to get showers and clean up. So I was clean. I was clean. My hygiene was good. Carrying around a suitcase everywhere. But in Baltimore, they have homeless services to where I was able to use seriously to the T. There are places where you go to where you could take showers and have lunch and breakfast and stuff and get clothes, and they help you with bus passes, free bus passes. And in Baltimore, you have the transportation was awesome down there. Okay, so because you had the buses, plus you had the subways, then you had the the trains, the light rails. They call them trains, light rail trains, whatever. They're on the track, and then you had all of this was wrapped into one bus pass. So if you got an unlimited bus pass for the day, you could get on all that stuff: the subway, the buses, the trains, and it got you pretty much everywhere around town where you needed to go. Not so far out though, but it went pretty far. It went really far. So transportation wasn't really an issue down there, and the buses, they ran all the time, and the subways ran all the time, except in the middle of the night though. It got to the point where they didn't run. Even the buses got to the point where they didn't run. But it was also hot during that time because it was June when I was there, June and July when I was there, and it was like so hot, and so I was spending my days trying to get housing, trying to get somewhere to where I could stay. So when I got out, where they tell you, okay, time to leave, I'll go and leave the shelter, and I will work my way trying to find something more permanent for him and I to be together as one. So, because that's what I was thinking at the time. Hey, we're trying to make it, right? We need a place to each other. I finally found a transitional housing to where him and I were able to get a room. But let me tell you about this first. So this shelter was it was a nice shelter. I mean, it had nice linens, where you had to wash a certain part of the week. They gave you toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant, all that stuff to where you could be clean. So and they had nice showers as well. And the food was pretty good as well. The thing I hated was the church services, of course. Here I am, Miss Spiritual, but I kind of don't have a thing for Southern Baptist type people. And what would happen is you would go to these services and they were like every night, okay? And you have like these preachers that would come up, men, female, whatever. They would come up and they would talk about how you were sinners and because you were living in a shelter. They would call you a sinner because, of course, you gotta be a sinner living in a shelter. If you're homeless, there gotta be a reason for it. You gotta be a criminal or something. Even though I have no criminal background whatsoever, I'm like clean. But they're telling me I gotta be a criminal because of the fact I'm in a shelter. No, Dodo, it's because I got here and ran out of money and couldn't get a place to live. So that's why I'm actually in the shelter. So I'm in the shelter and the preachers hated me. Because let me see. I actually had this one preacher, he's doing his little sermon or whatever, like, and I'm like, okay. He asked this question. He says, if you were to die right now, where would you go? I just like, no, he's like, if you were to die right now, would you be going to heaven? And I said, yes. And I said that in front of like the whole service. Which made him so mad. He's like, no, you wouldn't. I said, yes, I would. He said, no, you would. You would go to hell. I said, no, it's not, sir. I belong to God. I will be going to heaven. Because I am God's warrior, sir. He's like, no, you won't. You will be going to hell. I said, no, sir. I will be going to heaven, and that's where I will be going. You, on the other hand, may be going to hell because of the way you're talking to me this way. People looking around like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she just said that in his service. Oh my God. And he was like, well, I just wanted to say blah, 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 blah. And I shut up because I let him go ahead and say what he had to say. But that made me kind of like a baddie. Oh my gosh. So there would be like, there was this woman that was a person that did her little sermon one night, and she kept talking about how it's so hard. It is so hard to be a person that not do anything to be close to God for him to even have us go to heaven or be with him. And I just sat there and I was like, oh my goodness. This woman feels that she's not good enough for God. And she get this from men telling her that she's not good enough. Now, we've already had this in other times where I had talked about how you don't have to do so much to win God's love. All you have to do is love him and be around him and not do the 10 commandments that are bad. Come on now, you know that. But people are so warped in making sure they have this power over people to the point to where they would do anything to make a person fear everything. And there's a thing called fear and a thing called love. Are you going to live with fear, which is don't think you're good enough for anything, everything is a bad, you believe everything that's going on in life, good and bad, even though there's things that you're not even supposed to pay attention to, but people do it, because people do it to distract people, like politicians and people like that. They make things up so it could be a distraction to understand what actually isn't going on in the world, what's really going on. And they make people believe these things that are happening that are really not true, or they may be true, but it has nothing to do with you, but they make it believe that it has to do with you when it doesn't, if you understand my drift. So yeah, this is one of the woman's, she was like that, and I felt sorry for her. I felt pity for her, and she was over me. She was the person that came in to speak about how God's supposed to love you. But she was saying it the wrong way. There was a lot of people, all those people that came every night, and I was in that place for about 3 weeks, and it was services every night. Every one of those preachers that came in, that talked to us, that had a service, all that stuff, they all was wrong. Oh, gosh. But, that's the way they did it. That's the way the program was, and that's the way they love it. Well, I ended up getting a job in Baltimore. And when I got the job, it was at night. So I had to find another place to live. Because, like I told you, they wouldn't allow me to go back out at night, not even for a job. That's the way the program was. I had to go to a service every night, So I ended up getting into a transitional home with my ex-husband. Excuse me. Actually, the weekend I got the job, the weekend I got the place. And then when I got the place, I found out it was going to take long. My background check had to go through, and it was taking a while for that to come through. So it was taking more weeks than that week in order for me to start my work at the time. So in the meantime, I'm in this transitional home, right? And we finally got a place to where we're together. My ex-husband and I, we were saying that we were still married when we weren't. Anyways, it was a way for us to be safe. I thought that him and I were working it out. So of course I agreed on saying that I was still married to him when I wasn't. But that's when he started getting comfortable. All of a sudden we're together. He's not in a men's shelter. I'm not in a women's shelter. We're together. We're doing things together. So he gets to the point to where he gets too comfortable, to where all of a sudden I'm starting to get talked down to again. He did it a couple times. I kept it in my mind, but I said, okay, whatever. It got to the point to where him and I started leaving each other, like walking away, like literally walking away from each other. It was about 5 different times that we got in arguments to the point to where he would just literally walk away. And then about 10 minutes later, he'd come right back. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't believe you're doing this. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to leave you. I need you. Yeah, that type of thing. About 5 times. The 5th time, it was a day to where I was supposed to check in to getting my license for free. And when that morning, I was going to test for my what do you call it? I was going to test for my hazardous test because I had already passed the background check with the fingerprint and everything through TSA. So all I needed was to take that up there and take the test and go ahead and get it done. But you got to understand, I never had any money. Like, I haven't started the new job yet to where they didn't needed me to have my license transferred over. Or I would have had like a driver job at, when I first got there, but I couldn't because I needed my license transferred over. Okay, so that morning I was gonna take the test, but I decided not to take the test because I'm studying for the test. My ex-husband comes in the room. He started playing music really loud. He started finding ways to irritate me, and I didn't have my privacy. I mean, and we're in a big house in one room, and he knew I had this test to do, but he decided to try to infuriate me. So we get on the buses to go to this place that was going to take care of the bus pass thing, where they get the license part as well. So we're going there, and he starts talking down on me again. And this time he's hollering at me again. And we had just gotten over in front of Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. And as soon as we got there, and we sat down on the bench waiting for another bus to come pick us up to take us to the other place, closer. He said something else. He said about a few more things, and then I snapped. I said, "That's it. I'm done." He said, "What?" And I run off. And he's running off after me. And there's people, and I'm hollering at him. And I said, "Leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you no more. Leave me alone." "What do you mean you're leaving me alone? I don't know where to go, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, "Leave me alone." And there was people there, and they're like, "Go, girl, you can go." And I left. Like, I ran out of sight. And I went to, instead of me catching a bus there, I walked there. But I did like little zigzags to get out of there. And so I get to the place. He it hadn't opened yet, and he's calling me, telling me, "Hey, I don't know where to go. I'm lost." I said, "You know where to go. You always took me everywhere." I said, "Dude." So I was like, "Find a way." He found a way to get there. We get in the place. The place is open. We go in the place. I sit somewhere, and we were supposed to have been washing some clothes that day at the place. And he was like, really, really, like really pissing me off. And he's like, "Well, I have your clothes, blah, 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 blah." So you know what I do? Took the clothes that I had, threw them in the trash. "What do you do that for? I can't believe." And people are like, "Hey, you don't need to be doing that in this place. Hey, it's the place. This is the place we have to help you, but you're not supposed to be here arguing." I said, "Don't worry about me. It's him. He needs to just leave me alone. Him and I don't need to be together anymore." And then they were like, "Well, I said, "Yeah." And so I went and sat down, and we're not saying anything. And he turned around. "Are you not going to say anything?" I said, "No. As a matter of fact, I'm out of here." So I get up and I go. I leave. So we had just gotten we had been in this transitional place for a while. So we were good with the person who was over it, and she has said that if there was any problems to give her a call. So what he does, he thinks that he's doing him a justice by calling her, telling her about that I don't want to be around him anymore, and that I left. So she calls me, and She calls me up and she's like, "Oh, so, what's going on? What is going on with you guys? Blah 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 blah." I said, "He doesn't need to be in my life anymore. I would rather live under a bridge, which I'm going to unpack, get my stuff, pack them up now, live under a bridge, than see him ever again. He has been very this, and I just started telling her off. I understand. We'll fix this. You don't have to live in the same room with him. Blah, 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 blah." Okay, so later after the whole me coming back from the driver's license thing, I go back to the place and I'm packing up. And before I get there, she's telling me, "Hey, one of your friends from the last shelter you were in, who you made friends with, is getting kicked out of your shelter, or your last shelter, and that you and her are going to be roommates at a different place." I said, "Fine." So I get down there and I'm packing everything. I didn't see him when I come in. He hadn't came in. I know he was watching. He was stalking me. Because as soon as I'm packing my stuff, which wasn't even 10 minutes, here he come rolling in the room talking about. And I have my suitcase open, packing everything I got that was in the room inside the suitcase fast as I can. And he's like, "So you're not going to say nothing to me?" "No, I'm still packing." "What do you mean you're not going to say nothing to me?" "That's what I mean. I'm not going to say nothing to you. I have nothing to say to you. It's over." And he's like, she's like, "Well, such and such is coming up to get you." I get a phone call. "Such and such is coming up to get you." I said, "Okay, I'll be there in a minute. He's in the room with me right now, and I'm just trying to make sure I get downstairs." So I'm all of a sudden finished packing up, and I'm trying to roll my suitcase down the stairs, and the other guy, who was the house manager, he finds me and gets the luggage and take it downstairs to the car. Okay, and so I didn't see him after that for a while. But okay, so after I get in the car and I go and we pick up the other girl that was going to be my roommate for the other transitional house that they had. We get her, we go to the transitional house, and there's guys there. So the guys pissed me off too, okay, at this new house. All right, I just came from Barry, which is my ex-husband, okay? And then I go directly into another chaotic situation. So the person who I'm with, this girl, this other roommate, we're the only two girls in a room, and then there's these about 3 guys in the house, which I'm used to because that's how it was in the last place. But I was actually with a guy in the last place, but I'm like with a girl now. And they had there was 2 bathrooms. There was one upstairs, there's one downstairs. And we decided to clean the bathroom downstairs and said that, "Hey, this is our bathroom. This is the woman's bathroom." But somebody decided to take a shower in that bathroom, and that triggered the mess out of me. Because it was like, oh my gosh, why did you take a shower in the bathroom downstairs when you normally take showers in the bathroom upstairs, where this is a public place, so therefore we could do what we want to do? I was like, no. We cleaned that so I could have a little privacy. Well, you don't get privacy around here. Okay? Pack my stuff. Once again, this is the second night, okay? This is the next night. Packing my stuff again, ready to go, roll underneath, and I rolled it down these stairs here, rolled it out. I went way to the the bus route. Bus route was still running at the time. I was ready to get on the bus and go under that bridge that I stayed in before and sleep there again. I get a phone call. This time I get a phone call from the house manager that doesn't live in the house. This house that I'm at now. And she's like, I'm crying. I'm like, I can't believe this has been happening to me. Oh my gosh. They did this. How can you do that? How can you allow that to happen? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, calm down, man. You just calm down because it's okay. It's okay. No, it's not okay. I don't have no privacy and they have two bedrooms, blah, blah. And I'm going off. I was like, why is it that I can't have a bathroom with my roommate? Why can't I have that? It is now you guys' bathroom. Yeah, you say that. No, it is now you guys' bathroom. You go home. It's okay. I don't want you living under the bridge. I said, but it doesn't matter. And tears are like falling down. And I'm depressed like everything. And I'm shouting and I'm going mental. Because it was a trigger, It was a trigger from a lot of stuff that I've been through in life. So I'm having a mental breakdown at that point at the bus stop at night with my suitcase with everything in it. The day after I left my ex-husband. So they calmed me down. I went back home to the place I was at. Went to sleep or whatever. Woke up the next morning. So the roommate that I had, she understood that was going on. There was a place that had a shelter in a hotel room that I had been wanting. That was only a woman's shelter. And I had been wanting to get that for the longest. And she had got in touch with the people. And so did I. She had me get in touch with them. They cleared my name for that shelter. And so I ended up leaving that transitional program altogether and going into a new shelter to where I was able to have a job. And with the transitional homes, I was able to have a job and work at night and still come back in. But with the shelter in the hotel, I was able to do that as well. And I'm right smack in Baltimore downtown now. And it was right next to the harbors where I was able, when I got in this shelter, I was able to see the water with the boats, the big huge museum boats and stuff, and listen to music and YouTube or whatever when I go on the early morning walks. And I had 3 meals a day there. And the difference between that shelter for the hotel to all the other places that I've been in Baltimore, it was the fact that you had to go through a metal detector. So, but I didn't have nothing to stick nobody with, so I was okay. So while I was in this shelter, I was able to, I started going to work. I started my first nights there at the job that I started. Now this job that I finally got cleared and everything for me to work, I had actually worked with that